Apologies for us being late. It turns out if you give makers a free rein and time, they take miles of it. So it's time for our second live stream. It's going to be with Kez from SpiritandBear. I'm not going to do too much introduction on what she's doing because it is a bit of a secret. But Kez is a bit of a whiz with anything and everything. If you have any questions, please feel free, and we'll answer them as best we can during the live stream, or you think of anything afterwards, we'll answer later. So Kez, please take it away.
Thank you very much. Okay, so today I'm going to show everybody how to make the Misfit skulls. Okay, now each person that's here today to make, they actually have their very own personalised skull that was designed by me. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to talk too much, and I'm just going to jump straight in. So what I've done is I have a piece of wood, and I have taped it and glued down the pattern. Now first off, what I'm going to do is drill out the inside cuts. Okay, so I'm just going to go over here.
So what Kez is using there is the 8220 again with the workstation. As you can see, we do have a 4250 corded tool at the top of it as well. She's just throwing bits everywhere, that's fine. You get used to tidying up after the makers. But no, back to the point. She's using two tools here for the ease of use for us. You can do all of this with one tool if needed.
Okay, so what I've got in here is my blade entry holes. We're going to move over to the moto saw next, and what we do is we're going to do the inside cuts first. The reason why we do the inside cuts first is because it keeps the wood stronger when you cut around the outside. So that's going to have to come off. So I'm just going to take the blade out of this and drop it on the floor. Okay, so all I'm going to do is push the blade through the holes that I've just drilled.
So what Kez has done there by drilling the holes is, she says, given herself pilot holes. Now, if you're anything like me, you would think, how on earth do I get a saw blade in the middle of a workpiece? Well, drill a hole to start with, and then set up the blade like this. She's using the motor saw, which is a scroll and fret saw, so you can actually take it out of that stand if you need to and use it handheld. And you can cut metal with it, plastic and wood, depending on the blade. And you do have rougher cut blades and finer blades as well.
You know, when you're demonstrating in your practice, why can you always do it straight away? I cannot get there in there. Yay! Okay, now we're sorted. Okay, so sorry.
So Kez, before you start, what wood are you using?
I am using poplar, tulip wood. It's a hardwood, but it's quite a soft hardwood. So it's nice and easy to work with when you're carving.
Do you have, when Kez was turning it on, using the on-off underneath the stand, there is a speed selection there. So like the multi-tools, if you're working in certain materials, you want a certain speed. So if Kez was working in harder wood, you probably want a higher speed, but then if she was working in something like perspex or plastic, the higher speed, the more friction build up, you can melt the workpiece. So again, check out what speed running the saw blade at is best for the material before you start.
that one is cut. What I'm going to do now is, normally I would cut all the inside cuts first, okay, but obviously we're time restricted today, so I'm just going to cut around the outside. So I'm going to go around the outside and then into the hairline just to make them separated pieces, so you would put it back together like a jigsaw puzzle, so it's intarsia. Yeah.
Got a question of, can the motor saw take pinless blades? No, it can't. It does have to use, sorry Kez, you can keep going. All right. You must use pin blades on it. It doesn't take pinless. And going back to what she's doing, just cutting it out, as she said, and cutting the hair off, it adds like a 3D effect to it. So you don't just have a 2D picture, you can really add different levels to your artwork. And how you do it. You might decide to do that, you might not. It's totally up to you, but you do get some cool effects if you try doing things in certain ways sometimes.
Right, so what you can see here, it was the beard bits on here. We have actually got jagged edges. So what I'm going to do is just cut down the smooth line, and then at the end I will go back in and do the smooth points rather than trying to take the blade in and out, because this is quite a thick blade. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Great thing about the motor saw, as you can see, is you can get some really intricate designs in there, turning and getting a real shape. Personally, I've used it to make jigsaw puzzles, which is kind of cool. I need a lot more practice to get to where Kez is, but you can really get those shapes out. Be aware though that the blade, although thin, if you're following thin lines, you will need to take that into account like you would with any other cut. Don't be afraid to cut outside your lines, and then you can either take it through again and take little bits off at a time, or get a multi-tool to it with a sanding or cutting bit and just refining the lines that you want, so it doesn't have to be perfect straight away. If they haven't already realized, the next workshop after this this live stream will be the makers doing their own version. So Kez has, should we say, social media stalked them slightly and found some pictures of them. So they're actually going to do themselves, which will be really cool. So there are ways for you to do your own designs, or if you really want to make something special for something, you can actually do find a picture of them and do things like that as well. It really shows that you can do any kind of design that you want, depending on what you like to do. you see from Kez, it does get a bit dusty. There is actually a Hoover port underneath the motor that you can attach a Hoover to. Our colleagues at Bosch do the connectors for it. They are sold separately, but you can put that on there if dust is going to be a problem, and it will act as a dust extractor for that. With that fine blade, you can really turn and get corners and details like Kez is spinning around there. And the depth gauge in front of the blade, that will act as a guard, but just be careful with your fingers as well. Fortunately, the teeth are only on one side of the blade, like most saw blades, but always be careful not to get your fingers too close to it. What you can do is, if you're doing a really intricate part, is try and clamp it down, but you can also try and push it through with another piece of wood if you need to. That does become a little bit difficult to control. But if you are doing straight cuts or parallel cuts, there is a straight and parallel line guide in the box. So that is quite easy to set up, and then saves you having to try and follow lines too precisely. The guide will do it for you.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just go over, cut around this hairline, just to make it a jigsaw puzzle.
I have a question of, is the motor saw limited to Dremel own brand pin blades, or can you use any pin blades? You're asking the Dremel person here, so officially the answer would be yes, you should use Dremel blades, but more, as long as they are the same size, they should work. We just have never tested it with someone else's blades, so we can't guarantee the performance. But it's like any accessory. We test all of our products on ours, so we have an idea of how they work and are optimized to work with our tools. But if you are using someone else's brand, then as long as it's the same shape, I probably shouldn't say this, but they will work.
Yes.
I have a question for you. Okay. Does the paper or glue not get stuck to the blade when you're doing slower or dull cuts?
No, actually, when you use painter's tape on the blades, it actually lubricates the blade, so it actually slides in and out more easily. So, okay, so as you can see here on the beard, I've cut out the spiky bits, and I'll put that to one side because I have one I prepared earlier. So all you have to do is, when you have got these and you've got your template still stuck to it, what the painter's tape and the pattern does, it just enables you to peel this away without having to clean up too much. You haven't got to clean up your wood now, okay? So we've got these, and all I'm going to do is shape. Now, you can shape these as little or as much as you like. With this one, I've shaped it quite a bit with the carving tools, but for today's purpose, what I'm going to do is just take the edges off of this one. Okay, so I'm going to be using the 4250 with a high-speed cutter. I'm not quite sure of the name. It's one of the titanium ones. You see it? Yeah? Okay. So we set to high speed. Okay. Now all we're going to do is just going with the grain of the wood because it makes it easier.
It is good to go with the grain, as Kez says, because the wood can sometimes fight you and you're often bouncing. So if you find that you are carving away, even sanding sometimes, and it becomes difficult or you start bouncing, just change the angle of the workpiece. That's the easiest thing to do. And what Kez is using there is, again, the flexible shaft with the 4250. So similar to what Mark was using earlier, just with a corded tool, because most of our attachments will fit the majority of our tools. So it does become personal preference as to what you want to use. Corded tools are great if you are in one place doing something for a very long time. The cordless tools are great if you need to move around, but if you've got two batteries, you can always have one on charge if you are in the same place and doing a long job. She is using, you can't quite see it, but the flexible tool shaft holder. So it is good practice to have the tool hanging up, because the cable in the flex shaft is quite strong. If you lay it down on the bench, what can happen is when you're moving around, it moves the tool and it can become a bit uncomfortable and start fighting you a little bit. Also, when you are setting up and using the flexible shaft, don't kink it, because there is a cable inside. It does become quite hot. It's best to keep it as straight as possible. And if you haven't used it for a long while, or if it's new out the box, best thing to do is hang it up and have it on a low speed and just run it for a little while, because the lubrication in the cable can pool at one end, so it just helps keep it working nice and smoothly and nice and cool. The flexible tool shaft holder as well, at the bottom of it, you might think, why has it got little holes in the base? Well, that is so you can keep your accessories there. Smart little thing. It sounds silly, but it saves you having to try and find out where you put your last set of accessories. With the workstation that Kez has, the 8220, and to her right, when we zoom out on that, is a crow's nest. Again, you can use it as a flexible tool shaft holder, so you can hang the tool up, but also, again, keep your accessories in that crow's nest, so they're easy reach. It's just nice to have them there, so you don't have to keep thinking, oh, damn, where did I put that piece? It just keeps it nicely organized. Ooh, we have a question. Which bit is Kez using here? I'm standing a few meters away, so my eyes aren't that great, but I think she's using one of our tungsten carbide cutters. She's using the spear point by the looks of it, but we will try and find out and let you know. I think off the top of my head, it is a 9901 or a 9903 is the short code for it.
Right, so I've just rounded that over quickly. Now with the hair, you can actually add sort of like hair bits into there. I'll show you one that I did earlier.
Kez, before I get moaned at, I'm just going to give you a 9-minute warning.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Okay, so this is one that I shaped earlier. And as you can see in there, I've added a little bit of texture to the hair. Just using the same bit again, just pulling it across the wood. With the mouth, I've added the teeth. Well, the teeth were already there, but I've added lips and teeth. Well, not really lips, it's a skull, but you know what I mean. Okay, so now with this, what I would do now is then paint it. So we can give it a quick paint. Okay, so what I'll do is just paint the eyeballs in there. But this is totally optional. You can do whatever you want with this. Just customize it however you feel, really. So, I'm just going to remove that.
What paint are you using, Kez?
I'm just using just normal acrylic paint. I only ever really use acrylic paint because when you use it, you can water it down if you need to. You can also add a finish to it as well. I generally use like a poly finish on acrylic paint. So, but yeah, I mean, you can add all sorts of decoration, or you can just leave it wood colour. You can do different types of wood. You don't need to do one piece of wood like I've done here. You can do different colours for different things. Like I've got the headband there. I've painted that particular headband, but on another one I'd used a piece of paduk which was naturally red anyway. So just painted that bit there. Now normally I would use a wood glue to glue this down, but for today's purposes I've got super glue somewhere. I'm not quite sure where I put my super glue at the minute. I think it's in the box over there. By your feet, Harriet, there, look. That one there. Please, thank you. So yeah, but so you can personalise these however you want. Thank you. So I would normally sand these down a little bit more. These ones have been sanded a little bit more than the one that I've just been carving. So it needs a bit more paint up there.
Kez, to sand and finish, would you be using similar techniques that Mark was using earlier, where you'd start with a cutting to carve it out and then use some of the abrasive and sanding bands?
Yes, normally what I would use is I would use these bits to start with, and then I would move on to one of the flap wheels. So they're just little bits of sandpaper. I have no idea what the name is. They're just little bits of sandpaper in a wheel, and that is 80 grit. And then you get the abrasive wheels, which go from, they go 120, they go 36 grit, they go 120, and they do a 220. This particular one's a 220. So to get into these particular lines that I've done, I would use these abrasive wheels to go and get into all the details. So then you do actually have to go over the whole piece. You have the buffs. They go up to a 320, which makes it really absolutely brilliant for then doing pyrography if you don't wish to paint, or everything else. You know, so they go up to 320 as well, which are brilliant. So, but yeah, but all I'm going to do is piece this one together. I haven't painted it very well, I do apologise. But yeah, that is what you'd be doing. Yeah. So.
Cool. We have a comment from someone called Jamie who says that you do jaw-dropping work. So they obviously know what you do. Something about though, a bear without a leg.
Yeah, I tried to carve a bear once and his leg fell off. Just one of those catastrophe moments that you kind of chuck in the drawer.
So do you plan, well, assuming you plan your projects anyway, but do you have an idea of what you want to do and then go for it, or do you meticulously plan out?
I kind of see something. I follow like tattoo artists and stuff, so a lot of my stuff comes from tattoo art, and I'll see something and I'll go, oh, I like an element of that, so I'll take that element and think about where else to put it, and then take element from somewhere else or something else, and then it kind of all forms together, and I generally draw them out onto paper before I do these, or I'll use the iPad to draw them out as well. So, but yeah, kind of spare of the moment inspirations, I think, sometimes.
And when you have something like the bear's leg falling off, which I hope is not a regular occurrence, but do you...
Chuck it in the drawer and leave it to it.
So do you...
Start again.
How do you deal with coming up against mistakes or mess up, things that go wrong? Do you start again? It must be quite infuriating and or...
No, it's not, because even though there's a mistake, I've learned how not to do it next time. So it's kind of like, yes, the bear's leg fell off, but next time I'm going to use hardwood instead of softwood. You know, I kind of just picked up a pallet wood block and went, I'm going to make a bear. You know, and because it was pine, it was softwood, it then didn't work very well. So next time I'll use hardwood and see how well that works. But I've learned not to do that in pine again. You know what I mean? So, yeah, right. Stop now. Yeah, so just giving it a bit of paint. I'm not going to paint it right now, but you kind of get the general gist as you go from your piece that you cut out to the piece that you're carving, to piece that has been carved, and then painted and finished. So, but yeah, that's about it really. They're quite simple to do, but pretty effective.
Awesome, thank you very much, Kez. We do have one other question, which is technically for me, actually. Okay. Have Dremel thought about producing a downdraft table for carving, i.e. sucks dust from under the table? Honestly, I don't know, but I will ask our product team. For those of you who don't know, we are an American brand, although we're owned by Robert Bosch. So all of our product development is done there. I will try and find out for you and get an answer for you. If anyone has any other questions for either Dremel or Kez on this subject, please feel free to contact both of us. We will answer as much as we can. These 3D art pieces are really, really cool. They get a lot of attention, both for Kez when she's posting about them, but also when we've taken them to shows. And they really have a way of bringing out and adding some kind of features to everything.
The personalisation of it, I think, it's just, people like that. It can make them look like you.
Is that me?
That's you.
Oh.
It was when you had your beard.
Oh, okay. Well, and I've
Can you see it? Can you see it?
Obviously, I've lost a bit of weight on that one, but cool. Thank you very much for watching. Let's top my time off there. We have our last live stream with Kenny, our cosplayer, at 2:30 dentist time this afternoon. What we're going to do now is Kez is going to set the challenge of our other makers to make their own version of this, and as we said, it's going to actually be them, which will be really cool.
They get to see the artwork for the first time.
to stay tuned over the next couple of weeks. We'll get that workshop out there as well. And before I run over and keep you all again, I will say thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you at 2:30. And thank you, Kez.
Thank you, and see you. Bye.